Have you ever found yourself looking around and realizing that the people you once counted on aren't as present as they used to be? It's a quiet, sobering moment, one that often comes with age. We grow up expecting that family will be our rock, our constant, especially as we get older. But what happens when that changes? When kids are wrapped up in their own lives, siblings are dealing with their own battles, and old friends are no longer a phone call away, either because life moved them elsewhere or because life moved on without them. That realization that maybe no one is truly there when you need them can land heavily on your chest. It's a feeling that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's more common than you might think. Aging doesn't just mean facing physical changes. It often means facing emotional shifts too, like confronting loneliness or navigating life with less support than you thought you'd have. But while that truth may sting at first, it doesn't have to leave you powerless. In fact, that very realization can be the spark that helps you build something even stronger, a life that doesn't crumble when others fade away. This isn't about resentment. It's not about blaming those who aren't around. It's about wisdom. It's about strength. It's about finding a kind of support that doesn't vanish when the phone doesn't ring, or when the front door stays closed for days. Because there are forms of support, quiet, reliable, and powerful, that exist outside the traditional idea of family and friends. They're often overlooked. Most people don't notice them until they desperately need them. But if you recognize them now and start nurturing them today, you'll have something much better than empty promises. You'll have real peace. One of the most underrated yet vital forms of support you can have as you age is your ability to move. It might sound simple, even basic, but it's everything. Being able to get out of bed, walk across a room, prepare your own meal, open your own door. These aren't just chores or movements. They are symbols of independence. They mean you are still in control of your life. And that control, that's what keeps fear at bay. That's what lets you say, I've got this, when no one else is around. Now, staying mobile after 70 doesn't mean doing the things you could at 50. It means preserving your strength where it matters most. It's about balance, flexibility, and endurance. Not to run a race, but to walk your own path with confidence. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need to perform. What you need is to keep moving every day in some small way. A few gentle stretches in the morning, a short walk down the block, or even around the house. Light resistance exercises to keep your muscles awake and alert. Every bit of movement sends a message to your body. You still need me, and your body listens. People think decline is inevitable. It's not. What's inevitable is change, but how you respond to that change is where your power lies. The more you move, the more your body adapts. The more you sit still, the more your body assumes that stillness is the goal. And before you know it, the simple act of getting up becomes a struggle. That's when the fear creeps in. The fear of falling, the fear of needing help, the fear of being a burden. Let me tell you about someone I once met, Harold, a man nearing 80 who walked every single morning with a cane, even if the weather was unfriendly. I once asked him why he didn't skip the tough days. He smiled and said, because when I stop walking, I start depending. And I don't want to depend. I want to keep going. He didn't move fast, and he didn't move far, but he moved with purpose. That cane was his partner, not his prison. He still ran errands, still visited friends, still climbed the 3 steps to his porch without asking for help, because he made a choice not to stop. That's the secret. Mobility isn't just physical. It's emotional. It tells your brain, we're still capable. And once your brain believes that, your confidence grows. You stop waiting for help and start trusting yourself. That changes everything. When you're mobile, you worry less about who will come if you fall, because you made falling less likely. You fear less, not because the risk is gone, but because you built strength that meets the challenge head-on. And you can start right where you are, even if your joints ache, even if you're stiff, even if you've been inactive for a while. Don't judge yourself. Don't try to compare your journey to someone else's. Just begin. Move your arms while your coffee brews. Stretch your legs before bedtime. Use the hallway as your walking path. Little actions add up. They become routines. And routines become foundations. Foundations you can stand on, walk with, and lean into no matter who else is around. But strength isn't just in the body. Another pillar of support you can build is in your relationship with money. And before you start thinking this is about having more of it, let me stop you right there. It's not. It's about simplicity, clarity, calm. Financial security at its heart is peace of mind, not piles of cash. And peace of mind comes when you understand what you have, what you need, and how to make it last without stress. As we get older, complex finances can turn into an emotional burden. Multiple bank accounts, too many credit cards, subscriptions we forgot we even signed up for. All of it becomes noise. Noise that drowns out the joy in our daily lives. But here's the truth. You don't need to manage a financial empire. You need to create order. You need to feel confident that your money works for you, not the other way around. I think about Lorraine, a woman I know who was widowed in her 70s. She wasn't wealthy, but she was wise. After her husband passed, she sat down and decided to declutter her finances. She moved to a smaller home, canceled everything she didn't use, cut back to one credit card, and she started keeping a little savings jar on her kitchen shelf. Not because she had to, but because it made her feel in control. She called it her Freedom Fund. Every time she added a 10 or 20, she smiled, because she wasn't depending on anyone else. She was holding her own hand. And that's the magic of simplifying your finances. You start to sleep better. You start to breathe easier. You no longer dread opening your bills. You don't need to call your daughter to figure out what charge appeared on your account. You handle it. You take ownership. And that feeling that I've got this moment, it's a kind of support that empowers you in ways no dollar amount can match. Financial simplicity removes chaos. And without chaos, your mind has room for joy, for creativity, for connection. That's what Lorraine discovered. She didn't have more money than before. She just had more peace. Because her life was no longer ruled by confusion or fear. She knew what she had. She knew what she needed. And she made sure her financial life was so simple she could explain it in 5 minutes over tea. And so can you. Start with one step. Write down what you spend. Cancel one thing you don't use. Combine your accounts. Create a simple, honest picture of your money. One that brings calm instead of confusion. Because financial security isn't about being wealthy. It's about being ready. It's about knowing, not guessing. And that kind of support, that's something you can build without needing anyone else. As you move further into your 70s and beyond, one of the most underrated forms of support isn't a person or a paycheck. It's your routine. Not just any routine, but one that keeps your health steady and your body functioning. A daily rhythm that doesn't wait for motivation or depend on mood. It's one of the strongest, most reliable lifelines you can build for yourself. And the beauty of it, it's entirely yours. No one can take it away or do it for you. Now, when people hear health routine, they often think of something complicated or expensive, like fitness classes, supplements, or diet plans. But that's not what we're talking about here. This is about the simple, repeatable actions that slowly build strength over time. Drinking enough water. Taking your medications at the same time each day. Stretching your legs for 10 minutes. Choosing meals that fuel your body, not just fill your plate. These habits, repeated daily, become anchors. They become the scaffolding that holds you up when everything else feels uncertain. You see, what many people don't realize is that consistency brings confidence. When your routine is dependable, your mind doesn't have to work so hard to make decisions. You don't wonder, should I walk today? Or did I remember to take my pills? You just do it. It becomes automatic. And that sense of predictability, it calms the brain. It quiets the anxiety that so often creeps in as we get older. Aging doesn't just affect the body. It creates a mental fog, too. Not because we're less intelligent, but because we're constantly trying to adapt to change. But when your health routine is solid, it gives your brain something to hold on to. It says, here's one thing we can count on. That's powerful. That's the kind of emotional support that doesn't come from a phone call or visit. It comes from within. Let me tell you about Frank. He's 81 now, and used to be an electrician. Every single morning at 6 a.m., he starts his day with a simple set of actions. First, he brews a cup of green tea. Then he does about 15 minutes of light stretches from his living room chair. After that, he takes his medication and heads out for a short walk around the block. Rain, shine, hot, cold. It doesn't matter. That's his rhythm. I once asked him why he's so disciplined about it, and he said, "Because I like telling myself first thing in the morning that I still matter." Frank's not trying to be impressive. He's not working out to look good. He's not even trying to extend his life. He's trying to keep control over his day. And that small act of consistency gives him dignity. It gives him purpose. That's what a daily health routine does. It reminds you that you're still the author of your life, that no matter what aches or slows down, you're still in the driver's seat. The real benefit of having a steady health routine isn't visible right away. It's not in how you look or even how strong you feel. It's in how you move through the day. You forget fewer things. You experience fewer health scares. You avoid more accidents. And emotionally, you feel less scattered. Because when your routine holds firm, you don't feel lost, even when life gets foggy. Of course, some days will be harder than others. You'll have less energy. Maybe your joints ache more. Maybe the weather keeps you from going outside. That's okay. The beauty of routine is that it doesn't have to be rigid. It can bend without breaking. It can be gentle and forgiving. The point is to keep going. Even if your walk becomes a few steps around the kitchen, even if your stretching becomes a slow movement of the arms while seated, the consistency matters more than the intensity. Every time you show up for yourself, even in a small way, you send a message to your inner self. I care. I'm still in this. And that message, repeated day after day, builds emotional armor. It makes you less reliant on others, not because you don't need people, but because you're no longer waiting on someone else to remind you that you matter. Now let's talk about something even more powerful than a strong body, a strong heart, not the one that pumps blood, but the one that carries your emotions. Because as we age, the true battles we face are often emotional. Grief, loneliness, disappointment. These are not occasional visitors. They're recurring guests. And the only way to face them without being crushed is through emotional resilience. Many people misunderstand what emotional resilience really is. They think it means never crying, never feeling low, never needing a break. But that's not strength. That's denial. True emotional resilience is the opposite. It's allowing yourself to feel deeply without being destroyed by it. It's saying, this hurts, but I'm not going to let it define me. That's where your real power lives. The older we get, the more losses we endure. A partner passes. Children move far away. Our bodies slow down. Opportunities we once took for granted begin to fade. But here's what resilient people know. Pain is not the end. It's a part of the journey. It's not something to avoid. It's something to carry with care. And when you carry it well, it strengthens you. Take Eileen, for example. She's 77 and lost her husband 5 years ago. She lives alone now. I once asked her how she coped with the solitude, and she said something that stayed with me. Every night, I light a candle. Not for him, but for me. It reminds me I made it through another day. I cry sometimes. I smile other times. But I always tell myself, you're still here, and that's enough. That's the heart of resilience. It's not about pretending. It's about accepting. It's about learning to sit with your emotions and not feel afraid of them. The reason so many people in their later years feel emotionally fragile is because they were never taught how to hold their own sorrow. They were taught to smile through it, to stay strong. But strength doesn't mean silence. It means staying open without falling apart. And here's something beautiful. Emotional resilience grows with age, if you let it. Every time you face something hard and come out the other side, you add another brick to your foundation. You realize that you've made it through storms you once thought would break you. And suddenly, you're not so scared of the next one. That kind of inner steadiness is worth more than any inheritance because it gives you freedom. Freedom from waiting on someone else to make you feel better. Freedom from being crushed by every disappointment. Freedom to live with an open heart, even after it's been hurt. So, How do you grow this resilience? You start by being honest with yourself. You don't push away your sadness. You name it. You sit with it. And then you move forward. You create little rituals that anchor you. A walk in the morning. A quiet cup of tea. Writing in a notebook. Listening to music that brings you peace. These are small things, but they carry great weight. They remind you that you're still you, no matter what you've lost. And most importantly, you remind yourself often, you are not weak for feeling. You are strong because you feel and keep going. That's resilience. That's your emotional muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. When emotional strength becomes part of who you are, you stop depending on the moods or actions of others to keep your world steady. You stop shrinking every time someone lets you down. You stop fearing solitude because you discover that the company of your own calm, wise self is enough. There comes a moment in life, usually later when the noise of youth is quieted, where you begin to ask not just who is still around me, but who am I when no one else is watching? It's a question that can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent your life in roles that served others, parent, partner, worker, caregiver. But once those roles fade, what remains? What holds you upright when the applause stops and the room goes quiet? For many people, the answer is blurry, but it doesn't have to be, because the most unwavering support you can have in your older years isn't found in people. It's found in your personal code. A personal code is a quiet set of values that guide how you live, even when no one's looking. It's not about rules or moral superiority. It's about having something inside you that doesn't change, even when everything else does. You might lose people. You might lose routines. You might even lose some abilities. But if you know your own values, your own inner compass, you'll never be truly lost. Too many people reach old age without ever defining what matters to them beyond what was expected. They were the good daughter, the loyal employee, the patient spouse. But when those labels drop away, they're left adrift. That's why your code matters. It's the thing that reminds you who you are at your core when the rest of the world gets quiet. You don't need a long list of values. Sometimes, just a few guiding principles can be enough to keep you rooted. Take Howard, for example. He's in his early 80s, lives in a small flat, and doesn't have much in the way of family. But ask anyone in his neighborhood, and they'll describe him as one of the most centered people they know. Why? Because Howard lives by a simple personal code. He told me once, I live by 5 rules. I always tell the truth. I never waste food. I return what I borrow. I forgive fast. And I sleep with a clear conscience. That's it. Nothing fancy. But those 5 values shape every decision he makes. They give his day purpose. They give his choices clarity. And they give him dignity. He doesn't seek approval from others because he's already approved his own way of living. That's the quiet strength a personal code gives you. It frees you from the need to impress. It frees you from regret. The truth is, when you live by values that mean something to you, life becomes simpler. You stop agonizing over every decision. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you did the right thing, because you already know what your right thing is. And that clarity, that's a kind of mental and emotional support that doesn't fade with time. There's also another layer to this. Studies have shown that older adults who live in alignment with their personal values report not only higher satisfaction with life, but also better emotional stability and even improved brain health. Why? Because a consistent value system acts like a thread through all the phases of your life. It brings order to chaos. It helps you stay mentally engaged. And it prevents the emotional disorientation that often comes with aging and loss. Your personal code doesn't need to match anyone else's. You don't need to explain it. You don't even need to write it down, though it helps. All that matters is that it feels true to you. Maybe for you, it's choosing to greet each day with kindness, even when you're tired. Maybe it's refusing to speak badly of others, no matter how much they've hurt you. Maybe it's staying curious, reading a little every day, or listening before speaking. Whatever values speak to your soul, those are your compass. And the more you follow them, the steadier you become. This inner foundation, the self-reliant core, is what gives aging its true dignity. Because aging doesn't have to mean fading away. It can mean becoming more yourself than ever before. It can mean shedding the need to please others and finally choosing the life you want to live. And here's where everything we've talked about comes together. All five of the quiet, steady sources of support we've explored: your mobility, your financial clarity, your health routine, your emotional resilience, and your personal code, they aren't about surviving old age. They're about living it with power, peace, and presence. You may not have the same support network you once did. Family dynamics shift. Friends relocate or pass on. Even your body may no longer show up for you the way it used to, but you are not left empty. In fact, many people discover in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s that their most valuable sources of strength were never other people at all. They were habits, practices, inner resources that never leave your side. Think about your daily rituals: the way you stretch when you wake up, the way you quietly prepare a cup of tea, the way you sit in your favorite chair to watch the light change across the room. These are not just routines. They are acts of preservation. They are small affirmations of self-worth. They tell your mind and your heart, I'm still here. I still matter. I still choose to show up. Even the way you handle your meals, your sleep, your space, these all reflect something deeper, a kind of quiet reverence for your own existence. Taking care of yourself isn't just practical. It's a form of self-respect, a way of saying, I deserve attention, even if no one else is giving it to me right now. And here's something else that often goes unnoticed: the power of curiosity. When you keep learning, keep thinking, keep engaged with the world, even in small ways, your spirit stays young. Read the newspaper, listen to a podcast, watch a documentary, learn the name of a flower you didn't know yesterday. These may seem trivial, but they're not. They're lifelines. They keep your inner world alive and your sense of relevance intact. You might be surprised at how much freedom there is in this chapter of life. No longer bound by the obligations of career or parenting, you now have the space to turn inward, to ask what truly matters to you, to make peace with the past, to deepen the parts of yourself that were always there, just waiting for permission to lead. That's why this stage of life, when done with intention, can be the most empowered of all. You get to decide how you live. You get to craft your own definition of meaning and support. And you get to become your own foundation, not because no one else is around, but because you've learned that your greatest ally is already within. So take a moment and ask yourself honestly, which of these quiet forms of support have I already been nurturing? And which ones have I overlooked? Maybe your mobility is slipping, but your values are solid. Maybe your finances are a mess, but your emotional resilience is strong. Whatever your starting point is, it's enough. You don't have to overhaul your entire life. You just have to take one small step in the direction of yourself. Because when you can stand tall on your own 2 feet, emotionally and literally, something incredible happens. You stop fearing solitude. You stop depending on the unpredictable. And you begin to feel a kind of peace that doesn't waver with the tides of other people's behavior. This is the gift of aging wisely. It's not about looking younger. It's not about clinging to the past. It's about standing grounded in who you are, what you believe, and how you choose to live. That is the kind of strength that no one can take from you. Not time, not distance, not even loss.